Hello, and welcome to today's lecture. It's a Yortzeit of the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the anniversary of my very first lecture, because that's when I decided to take the plunge and give my first lecture on this channel. So I think today we're going to speak about the idea of Spheris HaOmer. That means this is the time period we're in at the moment. We're between the two festivals of Pesach and Shavuos, Passover, and I think it's called Pentecost. Pesach or Passover is when the Jewish people, we went out of the land of Egypt 3,336 years ago, right? On the 50th day of the 15th of Nisan, with the final of the 10 miracles which God brought over the period of approximately a year, to punish the Egyptians for the cruelty they did to the Jewish people over the centuries. He took us out and he did a miracle. He killed all the firstborn Egyptians, and that was a day where we ate the Korban Pesach. That's the Paschal lamb, the Passover lamb, the first sacrifice the Jewish people as a nation had. And obviously, that was one of the greatest miracles ever to happen. God went through every single house. In fact, the name Pesach means Poseach means to jump over. That's one of the meanings of the word. If there was a Jewish house, God, so to speak, jumped over it, and he killed the firstborn in the next house, if it was an Egyptian one. Okay, so that's the festival of Passover, Pesach. And we have the many different commandments on that day. We actually spend the whole night, well, as much as you can, speaking about the story of going out of Egypt. So we recount it every single year in order that we don't forget, and to ingrain it in our hearts and hearts of our children. And that's been going back since the original one. The very first Seder night was 3,336 years ago, and it's just every year we just keep it going. And we eat the Matzah, that's the unleavened bread. There's also a very strong spiritual aspect, spiritual element to the festival of Passover, and we're going to explore that a bit as well. And maybe some other elements of it, and we're going to see there's a big structure to do with this festival and the following days as well, which we're going to speak about. The festival of Shavuos, which was 50 days later, the Jewish people traveled through the wilderness about 45 days later. They arrived in the desert of Sinai, the Sinai desert, and 5 or 6 days later, they received the Torah, which means that the Jewish people gathered around the Mount Sinai, and the only time this has ever happened in history, God spoke to a whole nation openly, and the Jewish people experienced God directly, so that they were all simultaneously elevated onto the level of prophecy. And that's really, so this is the, what do you call it, the foundation story, or the origin story, I think it's called, of the Jewish people. On Pesach, we became a nation, we became free, but we only got our true identity and our mission only once we heard God speak to us, and he gave us the 10 commandments. We had a whole lecture a couple of months ago about some nuances of the 10 commandments. And so we see there seems to be two connected festivals going out of Egypt. That means we're free from the evil which was pressing us down. But what do we do with it? Now we connect to God and receive his instruction. And now that's the sort of the do good, as the verse in Psalms 34 says, Som re'av aseh tov. Yeah, turn away from evil and do good. That's generally the order we have to do things in life. When we want to improve as people, we have to turn away from the negative influences or remove any corrupting influences. And that, once we clean of those negative things, then we start embracing a positive direction. The reason is because if a person's still corrupted or impure spiritually or I guess ethically, maybe you could think of it like that, and you start trying to do a good thing, it's going to be tainted by those negative traits. So, for example, a person, he loves, it's a very high, very lofty example, but it brings out the idea. Imagine if you've got a person who's a very self-centered person. He just loves honor. He loves people giving him attention, right? But he wants to be someone who gives charity. So really, the best way to do it is, first of all, this is all theoretical. In the real world, things are much more complex. But theoretically, he should work on himself. That's it. I don't care what people think of me, right? I realize that honor is a fleeting thing. It's only temporary. It's not tangible. It's not real. It doesn't help me. And then once he's driven that message into his heart, then he can start doing like charitable work. And when people honor him, no, I'm doing it for the right reason. I don't care about honor because I've already purified my heart from that. I think we actually spoke about this once. We had a lecture on this, about the difference between King David and King Solomon. I can't remember which lecture it was. It was a while ago. It might have been the one about eating. Yeah, the idea of purifying yourself first and then attaching yourself to holiness, right? Which means that you can partake in the physicality and not get influenced by it. Yeah. What happens to this person if he starts being a charitable person before he purifies his heart? What happens is that he ends up doing it for the wrong reasons. And really the driving force for him to do the good action is a corrupt, bad reason, which destroys the whole... I'm not saying it's worth nothing, his charity, but it makes it on a completely different level. It makes his level of spiritually, his level of being good is tainted so badly. Really, he's a bad person. I know it's hard to say that, but on one level, he's a bad person. Yeah, because what's he doing? He's taking this very special opportunity of giving, being kind to others, and he's actually using that as an excuse to get honor, because he knows that people respect good people. So I'll be a good person, not because I'm not interested in being good at all. I just want the honor. We did speak about in the lecture about Lishmo that is an acceptable driving force for a person to do what he does for honor. It's acceptable. It's not ideal, but it's good because it helps him get to a place where he wouldn't have got otherwise. But otherwise, the Jewish theoretical, that's why I say it's more complicated than just this simple process, but the ideal way that we should do things, we should remove the evil first. Then when we embrace the good stuff, it's not going to be tainted, it's not going to be mixed in with evil. That sort of reminds us of the sin of Adam, right? The sin of the eating of the tree of the Eitz, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Remember, knowledge in Hebrew means connection, right? Da'as means to connect. Like it says, Vayed Adam es chava ishtay, right? And man knew his wife, right? So knowing there, it means in terms of connection, literal connection. So that's because knowledge, da'as, there's different words in Hebrew which represent knowledge. One of them is chokhmah, which means wisdom. Bina means understanding, detailed understanding. Da'as is translated as knowledge, but the idea is it's a knowledge which is connected with your own self-awareness, right? It's a knowledge which is internalized in you and it's connected to your being, right? So it's not something which is theoretical anymore. It's a living knowledge. It's connected with who you are. It's a knowledge which has gone into your heart, you feel it in your autonomous self. So that is the knowledge of good and evil, which that's what the tree was. The tree represented consuming this concept of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil means the connection and the intertwining and the mixing together of good and evil. That causes confusion. So when a person tries to do the right thing, but for the wrong reason, the venom and the poison's already there in the good action. And even eventually, even if he ends up doing the right thing, there'll always be an element which shows that he's not doing that. He's not doing the charity. He's doing getting honor. The way he does it is by doing charity. Yeah, this is a high level. It doesn't apply to most of us. Most of us will just be happy if we do the right thing. But this is the idea, right? So since we're talking on a conceptual level, obviously the Jewish Yom Tovim, the Jewish festivals, are all geared. The whole of the Torah, all the commandments are geared to the ideal level. So the ideal way that God caused this process to happen is, first of all, we removed ourselves from the impurity of Egypt, and then once we were cleaned of that, and we elevate ourselves, and for those 49 days until the 50th day, which is Shavuos, the Pentecost, that's where we receive the Torah, and that's where we get the positive message of the holiness. There's 49 days in between Pesach and Shavuos, right? And we've got a special commandment to count the Omer. Very curious type of mitzvah. You've got to remember to do it every day. If you miss one day, you're in trouble, right? So from the day after Pesach until the day before Shavuos, we count. This is the first day of the Omer, the second day of the Omer, the third day, and then eventually get to a week. This is the first week of the Omer, which is 7 days. This is 8 days of the Omer, which is a week and a day, etc. Today we are 5 weeks and 6 days, right? Which is 41, right? And these 49 days of the Omer are basically, we're fixing something within ourselves in order to prepare ourselves. We're purifying ourselves, in other words, in order that we can accept the Torah on the Shavuos. So what exactly is this process? Maybe I'll make it a brief lecture today, even though we've probably gone on 20 minutes already. No, 12 minutes. Okay. The idea is like this. The way that God runs the world is he usually does things in 3 stages. We've probably touched on this a few times in passing, but we'll focus on it now. First of all, you've got the reality as it should be. Okay? The Rabbi Tatz has got a whole book about this called Living Inspired. You read that book there, it's very, very good. Then God removes this flash of perfection, right? Because that's, well, we'll explain. And then God wants us to work and do some sort of hard work for us to internalize that amazing reality which we experienced as a gift. And then eventually, once we've put all the effort in and we've done our maximum effort, then God gives it to us again, but this time it's connected with us. Okay? So a nice example is marriage. Marriage, usually what happens, people meet for the first time and they like each other and they get engaged. It's like, wow, amazing. There's like hearts pounding, there's fireworks and bells and whatever it is, right? It feels like the most amazing sensation ever. And then when a person gets married, it usually takes a while, about 2 or 3 days, but then things get normal. And think, oh, where's that spark? Where's that excitement? All right, okay, well, let's get on with it. Okay, and they have to learn how to get on with each other. Once you do that, then that takes, we had the whole lecture about love, about giving. Each one's focusing on giving to the other, give. And eventually, they see each other in the other, right? Each spouse sees themselves in the other spouse. because they've given so much to it. They've invested in the spouse, so they see themselves in the spouse, and that creates a very tight bond. And eventually, they get to a love which is much deeper than the original feeling which they had. The original feeling they had was very sensational, very superficial, but very powerful. Then it goes away, and then through the work, it becomes much closer. The bond's much deeper. Yeah, it's not based on something which hits them from the outside. It's something which they've developed through their own hard work, right? Through their effort. So you see that's the pattern again. Those 3 stages: the original spark or flash, them working on it, sort of like kneading the dough, sort of working to get the nuances out of that spark and trying to bring it down to your everyday life. And then eventually your everyday life is a personification of, or a manifestation, I should say, of this original light, but it's part of you now, right? So in as much as you worked on it, that's how much you get of it. But it's not going to be as bright as the original light, but it's going to be more part of you. And that makes it much more worthwhile. We spoke in our very first lecture as well, similar idea, about the idea of God wanting us to be like Him. Yeah, if God creates us to be like Him automatically, then we haven't done anything. We're just takers, right? We want to be givers like God. So God can't create us as givers, as autonomous givers who give because we choose to give. Because if He created us like that, then we wouldn't be choosing. So He has to give us free will. So therefore He creates us, right, with maybe the soul experiences this before it comes to the world, amazing closeness with God. Wow, I need to get back to this. Then it comes down to this world, and it has to work, has to develop, has to think about life, think about what's important. Once he knows that, then do what's the right thing to do, develop personality, develop your middos, your character traits, develop your mind, train your body to do good. That's the effort stage. And eventually, at the end, a person will have the world to come where the soul feels that it deserves its place next to God, as it has, through its own effort, become like God. It's become a choosing entity, and one which chose godliness. Right? So the reward for choosing anything is you get the thing which you chose. You choose a chocolate cake, the reward is the chocolate cake, as we said previously. Right? The reward of doing the mitzvahs, doing the commandments, which means the reward of connecting with God through your free will. Right? I choose to do God's will. What's the reward? Connecting with God. The reward is the thing which you do. Okay. So that's the third stage. In fact, we see this, the Gemara, the Talmud says in Tractate Nida 30b, it speaks about, there's a piece of Agadah, it describes what happens spiritually in the womb. The soul is sent down into the body, into this tiny embryo, and it's taught the whole Torah, right? It learns the whole Torah in the womb. And then when it gets born, there's many details about this. God, I'm just going to bring out what's relevant here. When it comes out, the angel which taught it the Torah hits him on the mouth, yeah, and he forgets the Torah, right? And then his whole life, that's what Jewish people, their whole lives, they're trying to study the Torah. We're really not trying to learn anything new. We're just trying to remember what we already knew before we were born, right, in our mother's womb. Okay, beautiful idea there. But what's the idea? What's the idea of hitting the mouth? Surely if you want to make someone forget, you hit them on the head. That's how amnesia usually works. You get a blow the person gets a blow to the head, they don't remember anymore. What's the idea of a blow to the mouth? So it's the same idea. The idea is that God gives us that flash of knowledge. He says, this is the Torah I want you to know. Look at the depth, the breadth, the spiritual element to it, right? This knowledge is, so to speak, a spiritual manifestation of God's will, right? I mean, it's literally God's will, because God's telling us what he wants in the Torah. But it's much deeper than that. It's everything about God which he reveals in the world is in the Torah. And each person's got their own personal part of the Torah which they have to master, which talks to them, which is essentially their soul itself. Our place, a part of the Torah, is in one way, it is who we are, right? It is the soul in a way. That spark. They say there's 600,000 letters in the Torah correspond to 600,000 souls of the Jewish people. Not going into the details there, no questions on that, but that's besides the point here. But the idea is that each Jewish person has a part of the Torah which he is a physical manifestation of, he's a physical representation of that letter of the Torah. So when everyone learns their part of Torah before they're born, that's what they've got to bring out in this world. So what's the idea of hitting on the mouth? So the idea is like this. We know the whole Torah before we're born. So according to this 3-step process, God taking something away and then expecting us to work for it, God's giving us a message. The angel comes, it hits us on the mouth. What is the mouth? The mouth is the part of the body whose job it is to express something which is in it and bring it out into the physical world. There's only one difference between an idea I have in my head before I've spoken it out and after I've spoken out. Okay, there might be many, but the primary difference is before I've spoken out something, it's not in this world. It's still in the spiritual world, in my mind. That's spiritual. It's got no physical manifestation. It's not tangible at all. It doesn't have an effect on the physical world until I do an action based on it. But without that, the thought itself doesn't do anything. This is going to be related to the lecture which I've already recorded but haven't uploaded about Esav and Yishmael. Hopefully coming up soon. I might just upload both these at the same time to check it over if it's any good though. So the mouth and speech is a very fundamental idea, especially in Judaism. It's an expression of something of the mind. That's what the mouth is, the speech. In fact, the word dibur means speaking, is connection. What you're doing is you're connecting what's inside to the person you're speaking to. You notice there's 2 words to describe speech in English and Hebrew as well, right? Is dibur and amira. Dibur means speaking. Amira means saying. These are very different ideas. When you speak with someone. When you say to someone. Okay? Both of these ideas have got a common idea. They're both expressing something which is on the inside. You're expressing something to do with your mind, an idea. The difference is, when I speak with you, I'm trying to help you understand it. I'm bringing you onto my level. We're together. Dibur, right? Dibur can also mean connection as well, actually, right? We spoke about the idea of the Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language lecture, about the word dovor, which is the same word as dibur. Dovor means a word, and dovor, which means a thing. It's the idea of the connection of the word with the thing, representing the idea that in Jewish thought, the Lashon HaKodesh, the words in Hebrew, are actually the spiritual DNA, but more than DNA, it's the energy source, the spiritual energy source to give reality to the physical object. As we say in English, the word table doesn't magically come down and manifest itself as a physical table. It's an arbitrary word. There's no intrinsic meaning to the word table. It's just how language developed. Whereas the word shulchan, shin lamed ches nun, those spiritual elements, those letters, manifest themselves as they come down to this world as a table, right? What type of table? There's many different elements to the letters and stuff like that. It could be a hybrid of the word shulchan with other things. So it's obviously much more complex. It's not like there's one table in the whole world that is just repeated, right? The word shulchan is the basic concept of it. There's only one concept of table, but you can have different types of table. I'm not getting into details there. To be frank, I don't know how it works, to be honest. Probably by different combinations of the different elements within each of the letters. Each letter is made up of other letters. Shin is made up of the letters Shin, Yud, Nun. And Yud's made up of Yud, Vav, Daled. And Nun is Nun, Vav, Nun. And you can extrapolate like that, like a sort of like a roots of a tree branching out. That's definitely how it works in Kabbalistic in the study of Kabbalah. We speak about that's how God actually creates the world. From his four-letter name, Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, the Tetragrammaton, is he does that, he expands that name, and then it becomes bigger, more details, and eventually you get this world, which is a physical reflection of that one name, but through many filters and sort of breaking up of the name into elements. Right, so where were we? Yeah, the word dibur, yeah. The word dibur, I'm speaking with you. Yeah, Amira, I'm saying to you. Amira, one of the words of the word Amira, Omar, means to say something. It can also mean to separate, yeah, to single out, right? Is Amru kol poel oven. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember an exact example here, but there are times where the word Amira, which means saying, can also mean to separate, to be separate, to rise up and to transcend. That's the opposite of the word dibur, which means dibur is the idea of connection between the speaker, the word, and the object, right? The word and the object, dovar. So those are two ways of speaking. It's very interesting that when the world was created, you see the 10 things God did to create every element of creation. It's the light on the first day, the sky on the second day, right? Or the stars, sun, moon, and stars on the fourth day. God uses a certain term every time. Vayomer Elokim, and God said, Amira. This is the idea of God expressing his will for the world. I want there to be a world, but I'm going to do it in a way where I'm separate from, I'm saying to. When you say to someone, I'm still the one in control, and you're distant, you're just trying to hang on, just trying to, in your mind, try to find some sort of ability to grasp what I'm saying. You're not on my level. When I say something to you, I'm the giver, you're the receiver. We don't become equal, right? So, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or, and God said there should be light. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Rokia, and God said there should be Rokia. The rule is that in Bereshit, so this is the first chapter of Genesis we're talking about here, just to be clear. God said these 10 things to reveal his thought in the world, but to do it in a way where it was still hidden. Where he's still, I'm above, I'm distant from the world, you have free will now. Because I'm not there, I'm not right there in your face, so to speak. I'm creating the world in a way where I'm hiding and you've got to work out that I'm the one behind it. There's nature that we said before in the lecture about miracles and nature. The word Elokim, Bereshis bara Elokim, in the beginning, God created. The word God there is Elokim. That God, that name actually represents the idea of God being a judge. A judge is someone who's distant from the person he's judging. And that's what the word Amira, Vayomer Elokim, and Elokim, that means the judge, who's separate from everything. Vayomer, he said, that means I'm expressing my thought, but I'm making sure I keep a distance. Like there's a giver and a receiver. This echoes back to the very first Keystone lecture. The idea is that God wants us to elevate ourselves till we're like God. We're givers like God. And in as much as he's a giver and we're a receiver, we're very distant. So the idea of Amira saying retains that distance between the giver and the receiver. The giver here being God, Elokim, and the receiver being the creation, human beings who've got the mind to appreciate it. But then later on Shavuos, right, Pentecost, when we received the Torah, God said 10 things as well. But these are not 10 things which are acts of creation or physical things. These are spiritual commandments which help us connect with God. I am God. Well, that tells us, right, so we know who to address our focus in life. Don't have idolatry. Okay, so we've got to be careful about this because that's going to destroy our purpose, our connection with God, right? Right? Etc. With all the other ones we explained in the 10 Commandments lecture, exactly what these 10 represent, 10 different ideas of which are essential for connecting with God. So, on one hand, we've got the 10 Ma'amoros, Amira meaning revelation of thought in a way where the revealer is still, in some respect, hidden from the receiver, and that's represented by the creation, where God hides. But what's lying behind the creation? This is just the physical world. What's the spiritual element of the world? It's the Torah. We explained before. Just like the idea of the words, the spiritual words being the source of the physical objects. It's just through many, many filters, the spirituality slowly becomes physical, and eventually this very low world, out of all the thousands of, or whatever it is, worlds above us, eventually the spiritual concepts become crystallized and become physical objects. The grand total of the whole creation comes from one big spiritual concept. And that spiritual concept, we said it's the name of God, Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh, but it's also the Torah. The Torah is the will of God. It's a spiritual aspect of God. And that is the light which God wants us to get back to. Right? So I'm kind of speaking two ideas simultaneously, but you see how they come together here. So the Aseres Dibros, the 10 Commandments, are telling us Dibur, 10 speakings. You have the 10 sayings where God creates the world, the physical world where God hides. And then you've got the 10 speakings where God speaks with us. Dibur means I'm bringing up to my level. You want to be like God? Do these commandments, because that's how you end up being an infinite giver, like I am, like we explained in our very first lecture. So the dibur, the speaking, is in order that we are like God. And that means we're speaking with each other, with. You speak with someone. You say to, distance, you speak with. But anyway, so it's interesting, so you see the idea there as well. God hides himself. When you start at the 3 stages, you can look at it on the whole universe level. You've got God himself to start off with, which is perfection, right? Then you've got God hiding himself, right? And giving a place for free will. That's creation. Those are the 10 sayings. And then we've got to get back into the the panemius, how do you say panemius, the spiritual internal reality of this world. And those 10 sayings are the 10 speakings, 10 commandments as usually referred to, the 10 speakings, dibur, where we go and now we connect with God, but through our own effort. So you see, it's beautiful, this idea of Shavuos being that third stage again. Anyway, so why does the baby hit on the mouth? Because the mouth represents the idea of bringing your thoughts into the world. Right? Remember what we said in the very first lecture. God created us with a body. Why? Because he wanted the body to be a partner in the spiritual giving sort of complex. Right? The soul gives to the body the awareness of God, and because the body lets the soul do that to it, it's effectively giving the soul the opportunity to give to another entity, i.e. to give to the body itself. And by doing that, the soul is able to connect with God, because now it's similar to God. So if it wasn't for the body, the soul wouldn't be able to connect with God. But because the body has now got something to give to, and the body lets it, so the body is essentially given the soul the opportunity to be a giver. Essentially, the body is by proxy giving to the soul. It's giving that opportunity. Right? So, before the baby is born, it knows the whole Torah. It's taught by the angel in the mother's womb. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is not just so it knows. That's given to it. It knew the whole Torah before it came down into this world. Why does it come into a mother's womb and then it has to get born? The idea is like what we said, is because the body has to benefit from the Torah. Right? It's not good enough just you're learning the Torah, I'm a genius, I know all the different secrets of the universe now. When it gets born, the angel's telling the baby, so to speak, you've got to internalize these concepts, this holiness, this awareness and connection of God in your body now. In the physical world. It's not good enough just to sit your whole life and study and then don't bring it into your body. That's why we've got actions, where physical mitzvahs, commandments which we do physically. We bring that spiritual element into our bodies. So the angel is saying, you've got to bring it into your body now. And how do we do that? How do you translate spiritual or thoughts into action? Speech. So the angel is saying, your mouth is the key. Don't just sit there your whole life thinking and being aware of God. You've got to bring that awareness into your body. Make your body a partner in bringing God down. Bring him into the world by doing good actions, right? Speak things, right? Remember, the mouth at the end of the day is a physical part. It's part of the body. It's a very high part of the body. It's a very spiritual part of the body. But at the end of the day, it's still physical. That's the idea of amelus b'Torah, amal peh. That's the idea of working, toiling in Torah. You don't just sit there and think. No, you say the words. Bring it into this world, the sound waves, into the physical avira, the physical void, if you want, the atmosphere, into the physical world. Bring it in here. That's why you go to a yeshiva where people are studying, it's very noisy. Go to a library, everyone's like, When Jewish people learn, they don't learn quietly, right? They learn, okay, and they speak it out. Because now you're speaking out, you're bringing it into the world, you're making it tangible. It's not just theoretical ideas, you're making it real. That's the idea of hitting the baby on the mouth. But why hitting? Because it's a beautiful idea heard from Moshe Shapiro. Because we know the idea of hitting reveals a lacking. that you still got somewhere to go. For example, if a person's walking down the world, he's feeling top of the world, he's feeling invincible, then someone hits him, then he feels there's something wrong here. He has to hit him back. Why? Because he feels there's something wrong with me. There's imperfection in me. I was able to receive pain and discomfort. I was able to get affected by something outside of me, which means I'm not everything. So when a person gets hit, the idea of hitting is, come on, wake up, so that you got stuff to do, right? It says there was one source, can't remember if it's a Gemara or a Midrash. I think it's a Gemara. There isn't even a single blade of grass in the world where it doesn't have a special angel, which is in charge of it, which hits it and says grow, and it doesn't grow until it's hit. Why? Because the grass can think, "Oh, I'm full 2 centimeters. Yeah, I'm fantastic. I'm doing really well here." And then the angel says, "1 minute, you're meant to be about 6 centimeters. This blade of grass, right? Right." So he hits it. So the grass wakes up and realizes, I've not reached my level of perfection yet. I haven't fulfilled my purpose yet. So when the baby gets hit on the mouth, they say that's why you have this little indentation there. Don't know. Some people argue about that, right? In the middle of the mouth there. They say that's where the baby gets hit. I'm not sure. I'm undecided about that. I have to see any sources which say that. But the idea is that it hits him on the mouth. It doesn't say specifically. There are people, I think, they assume that. Right? Yeah, I could be wrong. So hitting the baby on the mouth is saying that you're lacking something in the mouth area now. You think, I know the whole Torah. No, I'm going to make you forget the Torah. So I'm hitting you on the mouth. What does that do? That means you're now in a dimension of physicality. You still know the Torah deep in the recesses of your memory. It's still there. But now your consciousness is connected with the physical world. You've gone to a new level now. Now you're down here. Your memories are up there. Now bring them down. Bring them out into the physical world. That's what's going on. In the state you are now, you're lacking that element where you reveal the Torah which you know into the physical world. And that's our whole life. The whole life of a Jew is learning Torah and bringing the light of Torah into the world. Whether by learning or by fulfilling the commandments. That's all we do. Right, even mundane things we explained can also connect up with this thing. Even things like eating or sleeping. Right? There's ways of connecting them to Torah. Right, okay. So we've understood this very fundamental idea of the idea of the 3 stages now. So let's look at Pesach, the Omer, and Shavuos. Right? So it's interesting, the Ramban, Nachmanides, says that actually it's all one festival. We see on Sukkot, the tabernacles, we have the first day of Sukkot, then we have 6 days, or 5, depending in Israel or not, they keep 2 days or not. And then at the end you have something called Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day, which is called Atzeres. Atzeres means holding back. That means it's the end of the process. God holds us back. He catches us at the end of the 7 days, and he holds us back for the grand finale, so to speak. So it's interesting that the one of the names for the festival of Shavuos is Atzeres. So Ramban says, I think it's the Ramban, he says, Nachmanides, Moshe ben Nachman, who lived about 900 years ago, something like that. Maybe 8 or 700 years. Okay. That Pesach is the beginning. Then the Omer, instead of having 7 days of Chol Hamoed, of sort of less holy days within the festival, like we do with Sukkot, right? We have 7 times 7. They have 49. And then the Shavuos will be like the 8th day. The number 8 and number 50 have got something in common. They both transcend the physical. The physical is always represented by the number 7. Or here it's represented by the number 49. And then Shavuos is the transcending number 50. 50 always represents the world to come, for example. Right? Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. It's just my focus is trying to keep it limited. Not easy. So, on Pesach, we have this amazing awareness of God. God reveals himself in a way where he goes through Egypt, he kills all the Egyptian firstborns, right? The Jewish people have amazing awareness of the open miracles there. It's not God speaking directly, it's God's kind of behind the scenes a bit, but it's pretty clear what God's doing. But then you have the 49 days of traveling through the desert to get to Shavuos. And those are the 49 days we have to count. And those 49 days we're meant to be working on one of the 7 different Middos, primary characteristics, which we have, whether it's kindness, self-control, balance, truth, right? Domination, humility, subjugation maybe, right? One is totality and one is revelation. Okay, those are I'm not sure if those are the best translations of the 7 Middos. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. And each one of those 7 attributes, they make up the totality of all human characteristics. There's some sort of combination. So, for example, if a person's lazy, that might be, or a person's slow or methodical, that might be the idea of Gevurah. That means holding yourself back, but holding yourself back in a way where you're trying to be balanced. So maybe it's patience. So maybe it's Gevurah Shebetiferes. Tiferes meaning balance. For example, I'm just throwing ideas out just to illustrate. I'm not even sure if I'm right about those specific ideas, but that's the idea. So these 7 primary characteristics can be broken up, as I just said, into 7 by 7. So you can have kindness of kindness, right? Or you can have self-restraint in kindness. So how does that look? So a person can be kind to someone, can give someone a job, right? Or you can give him some charity. That would be chesed shebechesed. That's the straightforward way of being kind. I'm just being kind. But there's another way, there's Gevurah Shebechesed. I can be kind to him in such a way where I'm holding back. And the holding back is really being kind. That's what God does with us. God lets us earn our pleasure or our existence in the world to come, our connection with him. He makes us work for it, which is the highest level of kindness. So that's Gevurah Shebechesed. So that would be tantamount to a person, I wouldn't be kind to this person. Oh, that's the second day of the Omer today. I'm going to be working on Gevurah Shebechesed. I'll tell you what, I won't give him something directly, but I'll give him a job where he's going to feel even better. That once he finishes that job, he'll feel so good that when I pay him, he'll feel he really earned it. So I've held myself back in order to do kindness, etc., and so on and so forth. That's how these 7 by 7 work. And I think we explained once in another lecture about the idea of Lev Tov, the one we went in Pirkei Avos, the ethics of the fathers. Why did we bring that up? I can't remember why we brought it up. Okay, Lev Tov. Lev Tov means a good heart, right? Maybe it was Simcha. Yeah, it could be the one about happiness and joy. Yeah, I think it was that one. That when a person has a good heart, right? That is the totality of a person's emotions and his character traits. Your character traits are associated with the heart. Your mind is associated with intellect and philosophy and concepts and the abstract. That gets translated by your middos. That means a person can know what the right thing to do is, but if his middos are bad, he won't do it, right? Because at the end of the day, I really want to do that. What wants to do that? Not your head. Your heart wants to do something else. So we've got to make sure our head, which has got the correct ideas, hopefully, it puts its imprint on the heart and starts formulating the heart and the 49 different attributes to be aligned with what is correct intellectually, right? So today I have to work on being kind, but in a way where I'm holding myself back and being reserved in order to bring a higher form of kindness. That would be the second day, for example, like we said. So these 49 days, we're working on our Middos. That means on Pesach, we got revelation of the reality of what it means to be connected with God. Right? We had this amazing experience. God loves us. He's taking us out. He's making us free. We're His nation. He's connecting with us. Thanks, God. Thank you, Hashem. But God says, I'm not just going to give it to you. You've got to work for it. So the 49 days, we're working, making ourselves, we're changing ourselves to be fitting to have that connection with God. Right? How do we do that? We explained before about the three souls, the mind, the heart, and the body. The mind is a place where holiness is. Right? That's where the knowledge, the well of knowledge, that's where the Torah is stored within us. We've got to bring that out into our body. You want to connect with God? You've got to work on yourself. You've got to bring the holiness into your body. And the first stage to do that is into your emotions, into your character traits, the different attributes we have through which we channel our thoughts into actions. An angry person, something happens, he'll channel it in a way where he gets frustrated. A patient person, something happens, he won't get excited. Or a stoic person, be calm, he won't get excited about something exciting, or he won't get angry about something infuriating. Right? Whereas a person who's an angry temperament or mercurial temperament, something good happens, he gets very excited quickly. Something bad happens, he gets very angry. Or maybe he gets very sad. Different people. Those are character traits. That's how you translate your knowledge of the world into action. And then people act on those emotions. Person angry, he'll smash something up, or he'll say something not nice to someone. Someone who's calm, right? He won't necessarily say anything to the person who's done something nice to him. Right? There's a negative. But the angry person, for example, someone does something nice to him, he's fired up, says, "Oh, thank you so much." He gives him a hug and a pat on the back. Right? And is there anything I can do for you? Yeah. Middos are measures. You can have a measure, you can have a bottle or a scale to weigh something up, but in a container, let's say you've got a litre container, that's what a middah is. A middah is a container. Why are attributes compared to same word as containers? Because containers, you can put good stuff in, you can put bad stuff in. All it is, it's a measure. Some people have a big measure of fire and a small measure of earth. So they're very energetic, very passionate people. And when it comes to earth, they don't like to go to sleep. They don't like to be bored, right? But so how does that come out in a person? As we said, if he's got, if something happens bad, let's say something bad happens to a person who's got the temperament of fire, of anger. He can react two ways. He can use his anger in a good way or a bad way. The bad way would be someone did something bad to me, right? I get angry and I try to get back at them, right? A good person who uses his anger for good things, he might do something like this. This person did something bad to me, right? He broke my camera or something like that, or glass in my house. So the fire comes up, but what does the fire do? The fire maybe makes him think quickly. How do I make sure I don't embarrass him? So, fine. Someone finally broke that annoying camera and now we can finally throw it away, right? Because a fiery personality is quick. You might be able to use his anger to get him to react quickly and seamlessly in a way where the person won't be embarrassed. And you can use all your middos like that. A person who's lazy, same thing. Person who's lazy, he's got a big measure of laziness. So that means he's a very earthy person, down to earth, right? So I've got to get up and do something, I've got to help someone out. Can't be bothered. Right? Or he says, or he can flip it on its head, maybe. I'm suggesting. These are just ideas. You can think of your own ideas. I'm just trying to get people aware of the inner workings of their mind and the personality traits. Or a lazy person might use it in a good way, right? He's saying, look, what else am I going to do? I'm only going to do this. I can't be bothered doing the other things. I might as well go and do this instead. Okay? So anyway, so that's the idea of the 49 days corresponding to the 49 middos. Now, the number 49 is very interesting. It's the gematria of Lev Tov, a good heart. Lev is gematria, the numerical value of the letters Lev, which means heart, 32, Lamed base 30 and 2. And Tov, which means good, is Tes Vov Veis, which is 9 plus 6 plus 2, which is 17. So 32 plus 17 makes 49. So we're trying to fix and get a good heart. The good heart, that's a way where we can truly channel our right knowledge now into our body. Once we do that, our bodies can become elevated now. And that's Shavuos. Now Shavuos represents the idea of 50, which is, as we said, the world to come, which is the idea of total connection with God. We raise ourselves and God speaks to us, the 10 speakings. God connects to us in a way where we're with Him, so to speak. How do we do that? Because we worked on ourselves, because we worked on our physical emotions, now we can translate the Torah and all the ideals of the Torah into our body. We could be kind people, we could be just people, we could be people with self-control, we could be sensitive people to others, we could be merciful, right? Because we've created those, we've aligned those channels, which are the middos, to bring out the truth of the Torah through those channels into our body. Now, when we do something, we'll do the right thing because we know the right thing and our emotions are aligned, and we'll follow it out. Like we explained, I think we explained that we had a whole lecture about the three souls. That's really kind of one way of looking at this journey from Pesach to Shavuos. Pesach, we're starting off, we're getting given everything, right? The Omer, the 49 days of the Omer, we work on ourselves. And we work on deserving having that connection with God. Then hopefully after 49 days, then you get to Shavuos and we've actually earned it. Now, God says, right, now that's the third stage. I gave you that flash, I took it away, you worked on yourself, now I'm going to give it to you, but now you're going to appreciate it and it's going to be part of you. It's not going to be floating above you. I'm going to bring that energy, that reality of my presence down into this world, right in your hearts and your ears and your eyes, right? The Jewish people were able to see sounds, stuff which you can only understand, which is only above you and you have to understand it, became something visible. It's right here with me. That's what we're saying here. Yeah, it says the Va'omroim Asakolos. If we look in chapter 20 in Exodus, Va'omroim Asakolos Asarapin, towards the end of the chapter there, right? About 8 or 9 verses before the end, right? Just after the 10 Commandments, right? They say they saw the kolos, they saw the sounds, right? There was thunder and lightning, they saw it. What's that mean? Like we said, When you hear something, it's above you, it's away from you, but you're trying to grasp it. You're trying to ascend your mind to sort of grasp that thing which is definitely above you. When you see something, it's here with you in your dimension, in your reality now. So when you see something which is heard, that means you see something which should only be understood. That means we understand there's a God, and we understand the reality of God, but we don't experience it. So God says, I'm going to bring my reality down here so you see my reality, right? And we know the Jewish people didn't see anything physical because God's not physical, right? We're warned about that very, very strongly in Voice Chanan, in Deuteronomy chapter 4, about verse 15, something like that, right? He said, be careful, don't think, just because you had this amazing experience, don't think you saw anything physical. God doesn't manifest himself in a physical being, right? Communicates, but not as a physical. That would be idolatry. So that's what's happening in Shavuos. And it's interesting, we see something very interesting in the verses. There's actually contradiction in verses, right? And using one of the rules of interpreting verses, of exegesis, we can see a beautiful idea. It says that God spoke to the Jewish people from the heavens. And another verse says, God spoke to us from the mountain. So which one was it? Was it the heavens or was it from the mountain? The answer is, the rabbis say, right, that you look for a third verse which unifies and it synchronizes the two verses together. So another verse says, God, you heard God's it basically mentions both of them. God, Vayered Hashem, and God came down to Sinai and he spoke out from Sinai. Something like that. I can't remember exactly how it works. But we see the idea here is the idea that God's coming down into the physical realm and the two things harmonize together. That's what we're saying. That's the third stage. The first stage is there's something above. Then we focus on ourselves, and then we bring the two together. Then, because we've worked on it, therefore God can give it to us, and it becomes part of us now. This amazing awareness, this prophecy is not above us, it's part of us now. This is the idea of Keser Torah, the crown of Torah. What's the idea of the crown? A crown, out of all the parts of the body, we spoke about the 7 attributes, there's actually 10. One of them is, the highest one is Keser, which is the crown, right? Corresponds to the human body. There's a parallel in the human body. The right arm is chesed, kindness. Left arm is gevura, right, etc. Right, and there's 3 higher ones, and the highest one is crown, which sits on top of the head. So the idea of a crown is the only part of the body, so to speak, which is not part of the body. It's something which is above the body. So Keser Torah is the idea where a person works so hard. The Rambam says, if a person wants to get Keser Torah, not who wants to know Torah, wants to get Keser Torah, he shouldn't waste any of his nights. He's got to work, even when it's not easy to learn. He should still push himself to study. If he does that enough, then God gives it to him, a Keser Torah, as a gift. Right? We know many people, many of our great sages were like that. When they started their formative years trying to learn, they were not very clever, but because they put a massive amount of effort in, they got this Keser Torah, this crown Torah, and they suddenly became geniuses. And no less Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva only started learning Torah when he was 40 years old. Right? So the connection between Rabbi Akiva and his pupils dying during the Omer, is because this is the time where we start to earn the Keser Torah. So they should have known more. Okay, that's another discussion for another time. Right, it's really to do with the Omer, but we don't want to branch out too much here. So Rabbi Akiva he learnt basically, 24 years straight without a break. Right? Obviously he dozed off here and there, whatever, but he never interrupted for any side things. And I think he became the Rabbi Akiva, which he's the greatest sage who's ever lived, basically, more or less. Well, he's recognized as that anyway. right? And he started from very humble beginnings. That's what Keseter is. But the idea is that the crown, something which should be above, becomes part of you. That's the idea of Keseter. Shavuos is about Keseter, is that crown, that thing which should be above, which is the reality of Hashem. It should be above this world. But God, because we work on the 49 days of the Omer, God gives it to us and it becomes part of us. And at the time of Shavuot, that happens every year. The way the Jewish year works, the festivals are not just a commemoration of something which happened in the past. There's a spiritual reality which comes down at the same time each year, corresponding to the festival. And it just so happened in the past, the way it manifested itself was that festival. So for example, Pesach, God shows his kindness. Okay, so 3,336 years ago, he showed his kindness by taking us out of Egypt. Right? Many years later, there's a story in the time of the temple where the Jewish people were about to be, the city of Jerusalem was about to be conquered by Sancherib, the Assyrian king, who had the mightiest army the world has ever seen. Yeah, maybe even today you don't have such big armies. There's millions of people in that army. And he's about to attack Jerusalem, but in the night, God did an open miracle. He destroyed the whole army except for 5 people, the Talmud says. Right? And there's a miraculous salvation. That's God's kindness. It was on Pesach. Right? When Isaac gave the blessing, hopefully we'll be mentioning this in the next lecture, the one I mentioned, which I wanted to, about Esav and Yishmael. Isaac gave the blessings to Jacob. When did he do that? The whole story that Esav was meant to get them, but then Yaakov, Rivka, Yitzchak's wife, Rebecca, arranged that Jacob should do something in order to, in a sly way, get the blessings for himself. So the Jewish people got the blessings of Isaac in the end because of that. That was on Pesach, again, because that's a time of kindness, a time of God gives us stuff, right? It's a Leil Shimurim Hu, L'Dorei Seichem. It says in chapter 12 or 13 in Exodus, yeah, it's a night of guarding. I think it's end of chapter 12, I think. Maybe the last verse even, right? Or close to the end. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Okay, the Leil Shimurim, that means that God guards us on the night of Pesach. There's a special time of the year where God actively sort of protects the Jewish people, and he expresses this characteristic of chesed, of kindness. Right? So every year we get these sort of energies coming. So if you think about it, time's not really a line, it's really a circle, and next year is a new circle, sort of like a spiral, I guess, something like that, or concentric circles. Yeah, because the end of one year is connected with the beginning of the next, so I guess it is a spiral. So every year we get this amazing awareness of God's kindness on Pesach. Then through the Omer, that's the time we work on ourselves. On Shavuos, that's the time where God reveals himself to us, right? And people who worked on the Omer, you get this amazing experience on Shavuos of this closeness to God, and the fact that God in the past spoke to us on this day, but we feel that he's speaking to us today as well. Some people might feel it, some people might not. That's besides the point, right? Maybe you've got to tune in, you've got to get the right frequency for that. Yeah, people who worked on the 49 days of the Omer, maybe they'll feel it more. But that's the idea of the number 50. The number 50 is the crown. The crown, that thing which should be above comes down into us. That's the crown of Torah. That's what's happening on Shavuos. Okay, so let's sum up what we said today. So we've basically gone through a lot of side things just to make the whole picture much richer. We said there's 3 stages to anything, any process in the world. First of all, you've got the thing which you're aiming for. So God reveals it to us. He says, this is what you should be going for, right? Then God takes it away. Okay, so you've got a faint memory of that initial flash of experience. Then God takes it away. Then it's not God now it's us. We have to work. And then once we've finished, then God says, now I'm going to give it to you permanently. It's not just given to you and which can be taken away. Now it's become part of you. Like we said with the marriage, right? Once people are married for a long time and they've spent all that time giving to each other, you can't get rid of that feeling. It's impossible, right? One person can betray the other one, but the feeling's still there. So that the feeling of, that's why unfortunately people get divorced. Sometimes they hate each other more than anyone else because they feel that betrayal. They feel, look, you've got something of mine. You've got all those years, all that effort I put into loving you, and now you're doing that to me. So you hate the person, right? Oh, hopefully not anyone here, but that's what can happen, right? Right? Or as we said, the world to come. Once we've worked our whole life, the 70, 80 years we're here, 120 years, we've worked on ourselves. Eventually we go up there, and like in the very first Keystone lecture, we say, God, look, now I deserve to be next to you. Now I deserve to be close to you. Because I've worked my whole life using my free will to bring you into my body, right? So now you've got to do your side of the deal, and you've got to give to me, right? I've given you the opportunity to give to me now, so it's that we're giving to God as well, kind of. Right, like we said there. Yeah. So that is the idea of once we worked, so we had that amazing experience on Pesach, on Passover. Then we have the 49 days of traveling. We were on a journey, an internal journey, fixing ourselves. This is the one time of the year where it's very easy to change if you put the effort in. The effort is much harder this time of year because the rewards are so much greater. But anyone who's able to put effort into changing themselves in a good way, this is the best time of the year to do it, because if you put the effort in, it'll have much greater success than any other time of the year. We've only got 8 days left, so maybe I should have said this about 5.5 weeks ago. Sorry about that. Okay. And then once a person's reached that zenith, you've completed the whole 49, then you transcend the 49 and you reach the level of the mind, which is the level 50, which is the number which transcends nature, right? 50 over 49, just like 8 is above 7. And that's Shavuos, right? It's interesting that the name of the festival, Shavuos, means weeks. That means the festival itself is only a revelation of the 7 weeks which were leading up to it. Yeah? It's a beautiful idea because God's just giving to us on day 50. All he's giving to us is the 49 days. You did the 49 days, good. So what's our rewards for working 49 days? Here are the 49 days you just worked on. But now you get to feel them, you get to experience them. That's the difference. Right? It's beautiful, such harmonious, beautiful ideas. I'll finish off with a beautiful idea. I like these sort of things, right? You see, like left field. If you have a look at the Zodiac signs of the 3 months of these three stages, right? Got Pesach, Passover, is in Nisan. ER, that's basically the month, with a bit from Nisan, a bit from the next month as well. But this month is basically only about the Omer. That's the time when many work. And then we've got Sivan. Sivan is when we have Shavuos, which is Pentecost. Pentecost probably because Penta, I guess, means 5, like 5 books. I guess something to do with that. If you look at the zodiac signs of these 3 months, yeah, believe it or not, that the Jewish people do believe in the zodiac signs. They are a thing. Maybe we don't believe in the horoscope which you find in the newspaper every day, and we definitely don't try finding out the future by looking at the stars and things like that, but we believe that they do have an influence on the world. These are channels through which God does send his energy forth into the world. Right? Because God hides himself, so his energy has to get here somehow. So the constellations is one path which God takes. And each month has got its own special energy represented by the Zodiac sign. So April, May and June, basically we're talking about. So Nisan is the sheep. Iyar will be the cow. So there'll be Aries, Taurus, and Sivan will be Gemini, which is the Urim, twins. If you think very carefully, hopefully those who are sharp here, your face will be lighting up now by the beauty of this. Because these are the exact three stages we've been talking about. The first one, Nisan, where Pesach is, where God just takes us out, even though we haven't worked on anything at all. We're literally like sheep. God just takes us out. Okay, tell us where to go. Like sheep don't do anything. Yeah, they just walk around eating the grass. Yeah, and that's it. They got an easy life, the sheep. Right? They just go into the pen now. Okay, I'll go in the pen. You tell me to go here, I'll go here. Yeah. That's the idea of Pesach. Then we got the Omer. That's represented by Taurus, the ox. The ox is a different type of animal completely than the sheep. The ox does the hard work. It does the ploughing. It does the daily grind. Every day you go, push, right, get to the end of the furrow. What next? Turn around, do it again. Go, grind it out. Keep working. Yeah. Yeah, don't think about like relaxing or anything like that. Just keep working. That's what the ox is all about. That's what the Taurus is. And that's what the Omer is all about. The Omer is all about us. It's not about God giving us something. It's about us working for something. And the beautiful thing is, and Sivan is Gemini. What's the idea? Twins. Right? That means you had Hashem giving, and we had us working. Now we become the same, right? So to speak. Obviously, we're not talking about exactly the same, but Hashem speaks to us like equals. God, we get onto the level where we're in line, we're in sync with God, right? Obviously, we don't become God. I don't want people to get the wrong idea here. It should be obvious. I shouldn't have to speak it out. Just watch a second Keystone lecture if you want to get clear exactly how we think about God. So that's the Gemini, that's the twins, and that's the idea of the heavens and the earth coming together. They're the twins. Yeah, heaven's up there, earth's down there, very different. But on Shavuos in this month, they're side by side. They come together, and that's a harmony, right? That's if you remember that what we spoke about in the three basic characteristics, I think we spoke about it in one lecture, one of the earlier lectures. The right arm, the left arm, and the torso. That's what's going on. The right arm is kindness, the left arm is self-control, but they harmonize as being part of a torso. That's where you get the harmony and things come together. It's not a right arm and left arm. It's a body now. A body which has got right arm and left arm. Right? That's what's happening on Shavuos. Right? And one final idea, which is a whole lecture in itself, but I'll just tell you very quickly the idea. There's something very interesting, very, very important commandment which we have on Pesach and one on Shavuos. On Pesach, we're commanded to eat matzah. This is the unleavened bread. So it's like a cracker, right? On Shavuos, we have to have cheesecake. Okay. To be honest, we don't have to have cheesecake. It's a custom to have cheesecake. But the Talmud says in 68b in Tractate Pesachim, it says that even though on all the festivals you can choose whether you want to dedicate it to spiritual pursuits, just studying Torah and praying, or you can just enjoy and indulge and sanctify the physical, everyone agrees on Shavuos when the Torah was given, you have to have something for yourself as well. Yeah, you have to enjoy the day. So I interpret that as cheesecake. Right. Right. So best day of the year. Right. So what's the idea here? What's the idea? The idea is, and more seriously, in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when the temple was standing, the only time we had leavened bread as part of the service in the temple, because we had different sacrifices, we had animal sacrifices. That wasn't too loud, I guess. Really sorry about that. Put a sound warning there. We usually we have wine libations, we have water poured on the, we have oil, flour, we have baked flour goods, right, as offerings. Many different times. Just look at the first probably 10 chapters of Leviticus, goes through all the different things which they do in the temple there. Now, out of the flour offerings, you can have just flour by itself, and you can have baked flour, but they were all made as matzah, which is this unleavened bread, like what we have on Pesach. On Shavuos is a very unique sacrifice. Well, I call it sacrifice or offering, whatever, present. Offering's probably the best word. That they had 2 loaves of chometz bread. That means leavened bread. Very interesting. Whereas on one hand, on Pesach, even regular people, that means outside the temple, it's very serious to eat leaven on Pesach. We're very careful to only have the matzah, the unleavened bread. But yet, on the other hand, on Shavuos, not only are we allowed to, like the rest of the year, eat leavened bread, cake, whatever, but even in the temple itself, you suddenly get leaven. What's going on? It seems a bit of like the sort of opposite of each other. So the answer is like what we said. On Pesach, yeah, we cannot be connected with the physical world. God had to take us out. He threw us out of Egypt, right? Yeah. It wasn't part of us. It was something given to us. Our bodies were still not in their proper state. So therefore, we can't have anything physical. So therefore, we have a bread, which is only flour and water, minimum ingredients, and not even time. You can't even let it rise. Definitely no yeast. That's the idea, that we are antagonistic to the physical. But through the Omer, we start fixing our physical elements, our character traits, which are the way we lead our physical lives. Yeah, our emotions are what drives our physical, like we explained. And once we fix those emotions, those character traits, those middos, then the physical is not a contradiction anymore. Then we can walk around in our physical bodies and be connected with God, just like the world to come, the 3rd stage, remember? So Shavuos represents the 3rd stage. So therefore, even in the place where things are holy, you can still have physicality now. And that's why in the temple, you have a physical leaven. Take your time, let it rise, right? Yeah, take your time. You could I can't remember whether they actually put yeast in it. Probably put yeast in it. I think they put yeast in it. Right, not sure. Right, but they definitely let it rise more than the 18 minutes till it's actually not matzah anymore. It's chometz. It's called leaven. So and that's in the basic mixture. And similarly, we are commanded that we have to have something nice physically for ourselves. Right? And that shows that our bodies are now elevated to the level of Torah. Our bodies have become sanctified, and therefore we specifically go out of our way to have something nice to eat. Right? The reason why cheesecake, there's many reasons why we have cheesecake. to do with milky products, whatever. So you see, it's beautiful patterns happening all the way through, but it's all based on this one pattern. God giving us something, then we have to work on it. That's us, and then God gives us the product, and we get back to that original experience, but now it becomes part of us, right? And therefore the body is part of the equation now, just like in the world to come, where the body goes to the world to come, right? Whereas before we were created, it was just the soul. Yeah, got the soul, then the body does the work without remembering the soul, what it learnt, the Torah it learnt in the womb, and then eventually they come together in the world to come. The soul and body come together, just like now the body gets elevated and it can come, and we can actually have something physical on a holy day. Amazing ideas. All right, hope you enjoyed that, right. And hopefully this other lecture, which I've been planning to upload for a while, still undecided whether it's to redo it or not. I might just do it anyway. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any questions in the comments. Apologise for the big gap if you're one of my avid followers who likes the lectures a bit more often, but haven't got round to it for whatever reasons. Please, leave comments. I love seeing questions. I love answering questions. So please leave them in the comment section. All the best. And I hope you will have a meaningful rest of the Omer and a meaningful Shavuos. And hopefully experience some of that earned light. All the best. Bye.